Welcome back to W.M.S.T. I am your host, Syed, aka Wrestling Universal on Instagram. And today, I'm gonna give my review of Shazam. This should be posted on Monday, hopefully. I got the chance to see it last Saturday. And yeah, this is gonna be my review. So here goes nothing. This is gonna be one of the first time we're branching out of doing our regular podcasts and going into doing separate reviews. So hopefully we get to do more of these. So let's get started with the review for Shazam. And this is going to be a non-spoiler review for Shazam. One of the first things I want to talk about when it comes to this movie is how much this movie respects the current canon of the DC extended universe. I really thought the characters, especially Billy Batson, Freddy, and Shazam himself, played by Zachary Levi, they did such an amazing job capturing that kind of the fanboyisms that we all feel for characters like Superman, Batman, and Aquaman. I think they did a very good job of capturing that, and I love how much they respected a lot of the superheroes that we love from the DCEU. And since DCU doesn't really get the respect it deserves from the general audience, I think this movie really captured what I personally believe about the DCEU, that it can be great, and the heroes are really amazing. And DC overall seems to be turning a corner with movies like Aquaman, Shazam, and Wonder Woman, and Man of Steel to an extent. That's a personal favorite of mine, and they're really turning it around when it comes to qualities in this movie, in these movies. And man, I gotta tell you, man, Shazam falls on top of the list, man. It's probably gonna end up being my favorite DCEU movie so far. Man, I had a blast watching this movie. I really felt like this sense of joy and happiness when I got out of the theater. The message really resonated with me personally that this movie tried to convey. Let's talk a little bit about Zachary Levi. I mean, we gotta talk a lot about this guy. This guy just gets it, man. He was born to play Shazam. He really embodied the character, the outlandishness, the goofiness, and the seriousness. He was a really amazing choice for this role, and Asher Angel did a pretty good job too of playing the normal version of Billy Batson, and the Shazam version played by Zach, of course, was absolutely phenomenal. I think they both did really good, and they both played off of Freddy very well. And these three are pretty much asked to carry the movie, with of course Mark Strong, which we'll get to soon. They did a very phenomenal job, and you really felt like just overall the cast, with the foster kids and the parents and all that, like you felt like these were real people with real emotions, and this movie wasn't afraid to go into sometimes the campiness, also the seriousness, and kind of the horror elements. It wasn't pulling its punches, like it was just going for it, and I really loved it for that. But yeah, overall the cast is really amazing. I think everybody was casted very well. The movie also made the villain, played by Mark Strong, Dr. Sivana, a very menacing villain, a very menacing character. Like, I totally see why he's the way he is, his twistedness and everything. Like, he's probably, I'm gonna say he's gonna be my favorite DCEU movie villain for a long time. Like, Mark Strong did an amazing job carrying this movie with Zachary Levi. I was shocked by how good his character was. With these movies, sometimes you don't expect the villain to be all that. Like, you sometimes expect him to be a mustache twirling, I'm gonna end the world kind of villain. Mark Strong was had a very Mark Strong's character, Dr. Sivana, had a very uh, strong backstory and a very menacing kind of evil performance. And there's gonna be scenes in the movie, you guys will see it, and you'll be like, man, this guy is a badass. Like, oh my god, I couldn't believe how good he was. And sometimes the movie is, as the saying goes, sometimes the movie is as good as its villain. I think Dr. Sivana is a worthy uh adversary for Zachary Levi Shazam, and this movie really plays off of him and Shazam very well. Now, this is funny. Shazam ended up doing something in its PG-13 confines what Venom wasn't able to do, and I think when you guys see it, you'll understand. And I was truly surprised of what they were able to do, especially with the horror element of the movie, which you wouldn't really think looking at the trailers. You're thinking this is a pretty campy, lighthearted movie. No, the trailers are hiding a lot. This has those elements, of course, but it also has so much heart and so much but sorry, going back to the horror elements, like this movie has a lot of it. Like of course, this movie was directed by David F. Sandberg, who is known for his work in horror movies, and it really shows. Like, I had a lot of vibes from in this movie of movies like Gremlin, and like those 90s 80s horror movies. Like, it really went for it, and it didn't hold back. Like, there's legitimately some stuff that's thriller-esque, and it really shows, especially the way it was shot. Like, it maximized the tensions in the scene that was going on. Other than that, all I gotta say about this movie is, like, the message I was talking about earlier was pretty much family. I feel like this movie conveyed the message of how important family is to a hero's journey, especially this one, who's a 14-year-old trapped in a god's body, pretty much. So yeah, I think this movie really conveyed that message really well. Quick shout out to Mary and Billy Batson's foster mom, who both are really hot, in my opinion. I was really glad to see them. They had great performances, and both were really hot, in my opinion. So there's that. So overall, I think this really is a big win for DC, again, off of heels of Aquaman, now Shazam, and I mean, they're just knocking it out of the park right now, and I'm so happy to see where they're going with these characters. The world building has been amazing. Speaking of world building, Shazam, of course, takes place in Philadelphia, and it had some nods to the Rocky movies, of course, which I really appreciated. And it's basically, hey, look, Shazam is look at this this red suited guy. He's a hero for Philadelphia. Philadelphia has its own superhero now, so that was pretty cool to see. But yeah, overall, my score for the movie is gonna be a 10 out of 10. Now, I know it's gonna be a bit controversial, maybe thinking like, oh, why did you rate it so high? To be really honest with you, I did not see a fatal flaw with this movie. Like, this movie had a lot of moving parts, and it didn't get too expository. It didn't get too bogged down with story. It had a lot of moving parts, and I really appreciated that. And you know what? Maybe my score will change in the future, but as of now, I am going to give this a 10 out of 10. I think this movie is going to be known as a coming of age story for kids and, adults who have dreamed of being superheroes and seeing what they want to do with those powers. So yeah, that's my review for Shazam. I look forward to talking spoilers on the W.M.S.T podcast, which I'll be doing probably closer to the release, or maybe a week after the release. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought of this review. I know it's a pretty amateur-ish review so far, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and please leave any comments, thoughts you had on our previous podcast or this one-off review for Shazam. So thank you very much, and we'll probably see you next week with another podcast.